comes the sun, doo-doo-doo-doo. Here comes the sun, and I say it's all right.
Oh, hello, Fortitude audience. Thank you so much for joining us today. We have had so much laughter already in the 10 minutes we have been hanging out with our guests. So, Amos, thanks for being here, hon.
Always. Hi.
Hi. Today we have Brooke and Jeremy Brown with us, longtime friends of ours. We were just discussing 12 years that we've known each other.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's been awesome. It has been fun to watch the two of you date, get married, and have 4 boys. It has been so much fun to watch the two of you. So thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for having us.
It is so good to see you, Brooke. It is so good. So you two have been on a journey since the day you've met. And Jeremy, you shared your story on our podcast. I can't remember exactly what episode was, but it was probably about 15 ago. And a lot of people, we got great feedback from your podcast. People were like, I had no idea Jeremy Brown went down and used to sit with the homeless guys and talk with them and how on fire he is for the Lord. Like people contacted me. And I think I shared some of it with you. But I also love that, Brooke, you are so on fire for the Lord also and doing things according to his will and his truth. Mm-hmm. And so I want to just jump in because how God paired the two of you together, it truly is divine and magical to me. Like to watch how you two have attacked business, life, marriage, just all of it. It's really cool to watch. So
Thank you.
Can you, whoever, you guys can bounce however you want as far as just share who you are and what you're doing today, right now.
Yeah, I think I'd say too, like we were just talking 12 years we've known each other and we've watched you guys on quite a walk. I mean, in a journey. So I would say the same thing right back to you and Amos, everything you guys are doing and that you're up to. I think it's just incredible. It's inspiring and we're happy to be here. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, I think maybe I'll jump in and just say, we're here to talk about probably the last 4 years of what's been going on. But, so I publish books. I'm in real estate and I'm her assistant to do whatever she needs in her business. And so she now has a business.
Yes.
Which is amazing.
Ooh.
Yes, I get to work with kiddos and I do craniosacral fascial therapy.
Ooh, say that one more time. That's
craniosacral fascial therapy, CFT for short.
Okay.
It's a gentle body work. And then I integrate some of that with some dynamic flex casting for kiddos that may need it. And then I also do primitive reflex therapy with them as well. So I kind of merge the 3 into one and my business is so fun. I love it.
Wow, that's so medically technical. I had no idea.
Well, and this is the story. This is how this happened. So it happened by the beginning of all of this was all this.
Yeah.
Of Brooke doing what she's doing, which is start with the end right here. She tells me last night, hey, I have 6 patients coming in the next couple of days. And it's all from... she just texts people, hey, I'm in town. If you need some therapy, let me know. 6 people, fully booked. Mm-hmm. So we always have to be paying attention to what is the Lord telling us to do and what's the market telling us. Mm-hmm. I have a friend who was like, I just put something out on Facebook and now I have a full book of business. I'm like, the market's telling you something. The Lord's telling you something. So, it was almost 4 years ago. Mm-hmm. The 21st of January, 2021, Bennett was born.
Our sweet Bennett.
Oh, he is so sweet.
He's a sweetie.
And I'll hand it off to you. Like he was born and his feet, I would describe it as his feet were a mess.
Yeah. He was born with bilateral clubfoot, severe bilateral clubfoot. And we knew, we knew at our 20-week ultrasound that we most likely would have a baby with clubfoot.
Okay.
So we had some time to prepare, but we also were like, especially me being pregnant, I wanted to be in the season of enjoying the pregnancy. So we didn't do a whole lot of going to see doctors before because there was a chance that he could be born and it was just positional and it wasn't even a thing. So we were trusting that the Lord would heal him in the womb if that was what his will was as well.
Okay.
So then he was born and we knew right away, you could see in his feet that they were turned inward and upward is what I always tell people. And then in the hospital, like fresh couple hours, I start researching. What are we going to do? Where are we going to go for treatment? What kinds of treatments are there out there? And
When you say inward and upward, are you mean like 90 degrees inward?
Yep. So
Or
they
just a
were
little
like
bit?
pigeon-toed, and then the bottoms of his feet faced his face as well.
Yeah. So really,
It was hard to look at.
Yeah.
Mm.
And now looking back, I love looking at his little clubfoot feet. They're just so precious because that's the way God made him.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so we started researching in the hospital, and I think we joke because by the time we left the hospital, I probably knew more about clubfoot than most doctors walking around in the hospital.
When that's no joke. So I think they're like, so we're talking about a big part of the way God calls people to engage in what he is up to is through problems.
Yeah.
He gives you a great, big, huge problem right in front of your face. And sometimes you can't run from the problem. And so that was the first stage is Brooke just being like, within 2 hours, you were researching and you were like, I found this thing over in France. I found this. So you just went nuts.
Ooh, can I pause there for a second? Because this is something I think the audience and people need to know more often. I just was talking to someone yesterday, how you explain that Jeremy is perfect. And what happens in a lot of people's lives is that problem becomes too big and they push it off under the rug. They try to avoid it. They don't want to attack it. They don't want to move through it to get to a better outcome because it's almost too much and too, like, you guys were faced with it just like sudden.
Yep.
There he is. And instead of going and kind of like in a pity party or anything, you're like, God created him this way. And this is okay because there's going to be ways that we can work through this, and we're going to attack it.
Yeah.
And that is what I love about your story is you didn't just sit in it. I'm sure there was moments where you had to maybe work through it, or like, what was that like? Or did you just like explain that process? Like, yes, you learned, you were already on it 2 hours after, but what really, like, some of the deeper feelings, what did you have to work through? Because I think people sit in that. And I want to hear how you worked through that.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, my first thoughts were, we're just going to pray over this thing and it's going to be done. And because we had done that. So, I mean, go back to, it wasn't even more than a couple months before this. Like, we would be walking around, and if I felt like we needed to pray over somebody, I would just ask them. And I remember this one guy sitting in a coffee shop. I was like, is there something up with your knee? He goes, yeah, I injured it this weekend. I can't hardly walk. I said, can I pray for your knee? And I'm not like dancing with snakes or something. It's in cafe. I just said, okay, spoke over it, prayed over it, very silent. I said, check, can you do something? He's like, thanks. And I'm like, can you stand up? Like, try it. And he's like, he started doing squats. It's like, we've seen that stuff. So I'm like, we'll do this. That didn't work. Okay, did that. That didn't work. Let's go take him into the church, have people pray for him. That didn't work. Okay, so we're starting to problem solve.
Well, and I'll even go back to when we found out at our 20-week ultrasound, and I remember in our kitchen getting on my knees and saying, Lord, this is your son. And truly giving him back to the Lord. So giving your problems back to him to be like, do something, like, I trust you fully. And then walking in that and being like, I'm going to be discernful in what the next step is. But that was a very pivotal moment for me. I was on my knees like, okay, Lord, this child is yours. I know he's going to be healed. I just don't know the path yet. And so it was trying to figure out that path. And just taking one step at a time.
That is very hard for a mom or a dad to do. To say, he's yours. We're very proactive and like Jeremy said, like, get it, fix it, like, just make it
on my time, on my terms,
Yes.
my way.
Yeah.
Well, Jeremy, what was it? What was it like? You said you want him to fix it, and he didn't in the moment. So were you feeling anger?
Not really. And I never really even processed it. I'm provider and protector. And so we trust each other in our roles. Like
Yes.
I knew she was going to figure it out. I just needed to be able to pay for it and make sure everybody was safe and whatever we had to do. So frankly, in my mind up until that point was like, well, if we got to do surgery, no problem. Lickety split. So, but then as we were praying and researching, Brooke's like, I think there's another way we could figure this out, because that was it. So what's the system? The system is, here's the surgery or surgeries. You do that. Here's the process. It's established system. And that's how it is solved. Like it's not like it's super rare for Clubfoot.
Yeah.
But we just had this inkling. We're not anti-medical, but we were like, Brooke's doing the research and she's like, man, the long-term research on this kind of isn't there. And what is there doesn't look great.
Yeah.
So if we can I think when you're going back to like, what can people take out of this? When you do have this problem, that's how we used to call it. Go back to when we were talking about them young men I was ministering. We call that getting summoned, because they all had big issues. And we all do it sometimes. Big problems is a big calling. So I think that was just our natural approach, because God builds you up slowly but surely. And if we're pressing into him with every problem, you get better and better at solving problems. So I was like, well, this is just a big problem. We're going to figure this thing out. And so I never really felt that. It was just, we're praying like God. Okay, God, do your thing. And then we've got to do everything we can do.
Yeah.
God's
We
not
can't
gonna-
just sit back either. Like we have to put our hands to it as well.
Which is exactly what you did.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay, because
Yes.
what you did to uproot your family, and you went to lengthy stuff. So tell us about that.
Yeah. So 2 weeks later after Bennett was born, we packed up a trailer and hitched it up, threw stuff in it that we thought we might need, and headed down to Dallas and started treatment another week later. And that was just a journey in itself. I mean, that was a wild one. We were in a snowstorm, ice storm, like the big ice storm of Dallas. We were driving into Dallas during that time, and rolling blackouts, all the craziness with an infant and our other little ones with us. And we started treatment, and we were there for about 6 to 8 weeks. And I was learning from a physical therapist there a special technique called French functional method. It's more stretching and taping. So then I learned how to do that technique and brought it back up here with us. And I was pretty much on my own. Nobody else around this region even knew how to do it.
Okay.
And so we came back up here, and God equipped me with the first thing. That was the first thing that we did and we learned. And like Jeremy said, the whole time we had our roles so that we could thrive in a very stressful situation. We were not home. We didn't have people that could watch our other kiddos. God just provided one thing after another. A great nanny. He was providing financially for us to be able to do that. And then I was in that role during COVID, of all times too, where I was the only one that could go up to the hospital with the baby. So it really was me and Bennett. And the Lord was just right there with us the whole time.
Oh, Brooke.
Yeah.
You say taping and stretching, but it was very strenuous. Like it sounds like, oh, you're just taping and stretching, but hours.
Yep. About 3 hours a day.
You did 3 hours a day for over a year, every single day.
Every single day. Yep.
So commitment, intense,
yes.
commitment. And you locked it in. Let's go.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I think though, as we're facing these big problems, we want to know how it's all going to go down and solve it. Like we want to know, God, just show me the direction you want, this and that. He doesn't do that for a really good reason. Like imagine Amos being a business owner. If you'd have sat down in your first business and say, here's all the things you're going to have to do to make this business work, you'd be like, that doesn't even make sense. No thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah. How about no?
Yeah. Exactly.
How about no?
I'll do, if somebody else started a business, great, I'll go work for them. But I would do the same. So it's like God gives us grace to do those. Like, I think back, how did you do that? It took us 32 hours to get to Dallas because we had weather the whole way. She had just had a baby. We have 2 other kids. We had a dog in the front, like an 80-pound dog in a Ford Explorer with like 150,000 miles on it. I never drove with a trailer. I parallel parked.
It sounds insane. It sounds like nobody.
It sounds crazy.
It does.
And that's the thing though, the little bit of grace at a time. And I couldn't think long term because I was like, it just overwhelmed me. So I was like, 1 week at a time, we can do this. And that's what we have to do. What's the worst? So like, that's the other part. People don't square up with, what's the very worst that could happen? Mm-hmm. What is the true very worst? We go broke. We have to do surgery. Okay. So to this day, when we travel, we've got cash in case we go totally broke, which probably won't ever happen, but we've squared up with what's the very worst that could happen. Okay, we're good with that. That eliminates a lot of fear.
It does.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep.
If you can really look that in the mirror and be like, okay, all right.
And then trust the process.
Yeah.
Trust the process.
Yeah.
Make sure the two of you are aligned. This is another thing. Communicating, making sure you have this same sort of look like that. Like, okay, Brooke, Jeremy, like, are we good? This is what we're going to do. We're buckling up and we're charging forward.
Yeah.
Because if you're not, there can be a lot more hangups, right?
Jeremy, what were you saying to Brooke as the leader of the house, the family through this strenuous time? What were you being intentional about saying?
Yeah. So I'm going, when we're in Dallas, we're down there for a while. We had never traveled. So Justice was 16 months old. He'd never been more than 25 minutes away from home. We didn't travel. I was like, no. I get very fixed in my mentality very quickly.
Yep.
And it helps me in business, but I have to shake myself out. I get very fixed. We didn't travel ever. So we're down there. We do that. And that was the beginning of your whole journey, because you come back here for a year and we'll get into it after that. But I was just focused on, I need to provide, I need to protect. Like, that's it. I need to make sure. So we had to make a bunch of big decisions about that of like, I need to provide, I need to make sure she's safe. So that meant we got to get as close to this hospital as we possibly can. That meant the cost is going to be crazy. That meant I don't have a choice but to keep my staff on. I can't peel it back, lean it up. I have to keep people hired because I can barely work. We have to get a nanny. I never would have got a nanny.
Yeah.
We have to get a nanny. We got to have her full time.
Yeah, that was out of necessity, not luxury.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
we just had to. So also God puts us in situations where I can't, I don't know where I'm going, but I can't stay here. We have to do this. It's a must, or else it's just not going to work. So I think it wasn't, in reflection, and I've seen this in my work, I've pretty much made a living interviewing people long form. We don't ever figure it out. Nobody does this. Nobody. Biggest business, nobody figures it out in advance. It's only upon reflection where we go, oh, this worked, that's led to this. And we learn strategic stuff in the back end of it. So I wouldn't say I was like thinking about intentionality. I was just making sure I had a foundation already built. Provide, protect, make sure she's good, supported, feeling good as we can, and that we're making the most out of this thing. Yeah. If we're going to have to be down here, we're going to have a great time.
That sounds very intentional to me.
Yeah.
And looking back, can you think of things that you had done years in advance that benefited you during this time?
100%. So the foundation was there. I just don't want people to think like I burst through the door, kick the door down, and I've got all this faith. You don't need to have that. You just need to have enough faith to say, I'm just going to do one more step. One or two. That's all I need. That's all God requires. He doesn't like kick the door down faith. Sometimes we have that. I didn't have that. Like, it was like a week at a time, and I can do a week, but it was, to your point, Amos, of like, it was many years of daily discipline, being in the word, being around other men, being in prayer, us working on our marriage, doing everything we needed and could do. And then it kind of tees you up to be able to take on some of these monsters. And that was our thing in the beginning. Lord, what's the story you want to tell through this thing?
Yeah.
You're telling a story. It's what you do. What is the story? And with that mentality allowed us to take these things, because the first monster was go learn French functional in Dallas. Okay, we did that. Now you're coming back. The next one was you are totally alone up here. There is nobody who knows this thing up here.
Yeah.
We went to a doctor and he said, you kind of know a little bit more than me, and I have to kind of catch up on this over the weekend.
Yes.
So we're like, okay.
Yeah.
And
he looked me in the face, and I mean, we have very great doctors in this region. And we went, and I was like, is there any way you can support me? This is what we went and learned. This is what I know. And he looked at me and said, you know more than I do.
Oh, good for him for being humble.
Truly.
And he was like, if you need this, I know how to do this. And I remember being like, okay, like
this might be more than I
can't,
thought.
and I can't do this on my own. I need my husband. I need my family. I need my support system. And most importantly, I need the Lord to truly push me through this because he's going to have to hold me through it.
Yeah.
I mean, there was nights where I was so exhausted and I'm like, I still need to get one stretch in.
You would be laying in bed on your back. Bennett's feet would be here and she would be doing the thing on his feet like this many times.
Yeah.
So you have that daily disciplined walk where it was incredible every day.
And not only are you like doing all this extra for Bennett, but you still are a wife and you still are a mom of 2 other little boys. And then you also got pregnant with a 4th.
Yep.
So, I mean, you made a baby while fixing feet.
Yeah.
Brooke, it's like, you look at that. I bet you go sometimes, I don't know. We just do it.
Yeah.
We just buckle up and we charge forward and
That's
we do
right.
it.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
So let me fast forward so you can get through this and come on the back end like you did the whole year.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next thing is like your God calls you to do something through sometimes big problems. So what do you do with that? You leave, we pray all the time, constantly doing all that, and then we leave no stone unturned. So you were constantly reaching out to doctors. You'd be like, here's this methodology. And we would call the person who invented that methodology.
Yeah.
We would call the guy.
Yep.
And you did that many, many times. So you were leaving no stone unturned in all that.
Yeah. Yeah. So that led us to then going and trying some fascial therapy, which is some of that CFT therapy that I was talking about. And we talked to the founder of that and he was like, this is where you need to go. So we had gone to Kansas first. We drove back and forth there, did an intensive, saw significant improvement in his feet. And it just was another layer of something like the next step. Okay, great. We're seeing improvement. Let's go and do another intensive after that. So then we went to Kansas and then we went to Chicago. We stayed there. Again, the same kind of situation where it was like he was providing, I was working and making sure that this was what we needed to be doing for Bennett's feet and for him. And like you were saying too, like on top of that being mom and still being wife and all of that. And I never removed Bennett. Like I never removed the problem from the family. It was always, we were doing it together. The boys wanted to help. Mom, I'll cut tape for you. Did they do it right? No, but they were part of it. And then you have his older brothers now stretching him. Mom, look, I'm working on Bennett. Like it was a thing we all did together. So it never put Bennett like as an outlier. Yeah. It was just a thing we all did together, and just bringing that community within our immediate family first. But going back to CFT, we learned that, and then we went out, and this mom and this daughter worked on him, and they were like, Brooke, you could do this. Like, you're already feeling what we're feeling, and you haven't been through training and had years of what we've done already under your belt. Like, you're getting it already. So then that was kind of the next thing, was going out to California then. And the whole time we're driving in a van. We're driving in an awesome Sprinter van, but it was, again, out of necessity.
Yeah.
It wasn't out of luxury. So we hightailed it to California, and I got training. I went through like a week of training for that. And that was such a cool thing. And I was like, I'm in love with working on babies and helping moms, and especially first-time moms. And you're kind of navigating through all that and just being able to encourage them too, of like, you don't have to do this all perfectly. I didn't do this all perfectly, and we can do it together. Like, kind of like how you used to work with the dudes that you'd go and you're like, we can just do this together.
Yeah.
Like, we don't have to have it all figured out. And so
if,
that was the
if
next
you're in,
piece.
I'm in. Like,
Yes.
we're committed to this together. Like,
Yes.
there's nothing better than mom. You've always had a passion for mamas.
Yes.
You've, like, since the day I've met you, you just have such a tender heart for just women in general, but families, like doing things for the betterment of just humanity. Like, I feel like you just have a beautiful sense. And then tying that in with the Holy Spirit and the Lord is just, it's really cool. So God has led you through the big problem, right? Jeremy, you said the big problem now has, like, you look at the outcome of now. Are you certified in this
Yep.
technique that
Yes,
you're
I
now
am.
helping the moms with?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
so you've
Well,
brought it here.
And then, so that
Yes.
was, she's gathering these disciplines. And we had many times where we hit a road of like, okay, Lord, like, I don't know. We do not know where this is now plateaued. We don't know many times. And I remember this last one added the last discipline that really brought it home for Bennett was, I remember just not being able to sleep for like 3 or 4 nights. And I didn't take that as, oh my God, I'm so nervous. I took that as, I'm wrestling, Lord. Like, I want it. We need an answer, like for real. We don't know what to do. And this is plateaued again. And I remember one morning waking up, and the first thing I thought, I looked right at the ceiling. First thought was, who was that lady who talked about that training months ago that we were like, no, we can't do it. It's in Orlando. And it was some kind of casting. And she said, yeah, you need to go get the surgery too. But here's what I do. And I was like, you know what? I said, Brooke, here's what I'm thinking. Remember that lady, this and that? And she's like, yeah. I said, I'm just going to reach out to her, see what's up. Text her. She texted me back immediately. And I was just like, hey, you probably don't remember us. We're this couple. We have this kid. And she texted me back immediately. She goes, I know exactly who you are. And I remember your son, because it was a very rare thing what we were up to.
Yeah.
So people will rally around you. They rallied around us so much in that community. She's like, I know exactly who you are. I'll call you later. And she goes, I was like, hey, she called me and I'm like, you said that training. Are you doing any more trainings like that? I think we should do it. And she goes, when you text me, I was just starting the training. And I do a virtual one, and then a week before, and then we do the in-person one. She goes, I was just starting that. She goes, I told the group about you guys. I want you to come. And she's like, I'll do the group thing with Brooke. I'll get her prep. You guys can come next week. So I was like, okay, great. But here's the thing too. I was like, okay, how much is the training? And she told me, and I was like, okay, we don't have that. I didn't tell her this, but I'm like, okay, we'll be there. We didn't have the money, because it's like the trip there, the lodging, the food, the training, getting back,
Thousands.
the no work.
Yeah. It's just,
It was into the 5-figure mark, which it often was. And I was like, okay, when do you need to be paid? Well, you can just bring a check that day. Great. I've got like 7 days. Okay. And I was like, all right,
Yeah, no problem.
you got 7 days. What's the worst that could happen? Can't pay you. Can I pay you in like after the training? Sure. Okay. I just bought myself 3 more days. I mean, that's the
But the
worst
Lord
that could happen.
provides.
yes, he does.
He
always.
provided. But
And he
I
did,
think it was like
100%.
the second to last day. I think it was.
It was the week. It was the
and
last
something
business
came
day
through,
before
and
we
it was
left you.
like, okay.
Yeah.
God is such a last-minute God.
He is.
Right?
And that's again the foundation. Like, I know this. What would be the greatest story here? That's probably what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And it's going to leave you on the edge of your seat.
Yeah. And reminding each other of that, because that's his role that he plays, so that I can be an encourager to him of like, God's going to provide. I know, don't stress too much about this.
Yeah.
Like, we just have to have our faith. Like, the faith has to be there, and we know it's going to happen.
What a great dynamic, you two. It sounds like everything went really well. Like hard, but really well.
Mm-hmm.
Are you willing to be vulnerable and talk about something that didn't go so well? Something you really had to work hard through?
I'll
Jeremy's
go.
like, I got something.
I'm sure there's people listening. They're
I'm like,
going
where
like,
do we
yeah, this
wanna
sounds
start?
just too good to be
So,
true.
Yeah.
check this out. We have that lady. Great.
Yeah.
And she goes, who I don't remember exactly how it went, but she goes, go see these people too, because they'll do I've trained them, right? Great. They're in Davenport, Iowa. Great. I bet we went 20 times from Sioux
We
Falls
were
to
gone
Davenport,
every other
Iowa.
weekend.
It
Yeah.
was so there, food, lodging, crazy, and did all that.
Plus
and
therapy.
she was
Yep.
doing it wrong. Great person. Would give her a big hug. We saw. She just didn't know she was doing it totally wrong. It was actually negating his feet.
Oh,
Yep.
no.
It was doing
Yep.
the reverse, and we just
That was
put
all summer.
that
That was
effort.
months of it.
And
Oh, dear.
and yeah, so we found out. And she's like, yeah, she's not even doing it right. And you found that out at that training.
When I was working on Bennett's feet, like, we were in training, and she said, that is not how it should be done.
Oh, no.
And so I was like, oh, okay, we're set back like 3 months. Like, that's a lot of progress in Bennett's world.
And it's time, because he's growing. His bones are getting stronger. Like 3 months is make or break.
Yep.
Just about.
That was
And Jeremy's
tough.
like, oh,
all that money, all that time.
But
Yes,
still,
that's-
it
you learned.
sucked, but it was
Yep.
like, okay, like we don't have time to process. I was like, I don't have time to process this
Yeah.
right now. What's next? And I've got to figure that out.
Yep.
I'm like, I'll process this at some point. I'll go talk to a counselor. I'll go to those places where you throw plates against the wall. Whatever though, like it was like our feet were to the fire.
Yeah.
And I remember we just bought this big trailer because we needed more room.
Yeah.
And it by a couple of inches got on my hitch. And I remember God being like, this is going to be a game of inches. This is
Yes,
going to be
I
a
remember-
game of inches. And I remember just being like, this is going to be a game of inches. That became my affirmation to myself. But it was like, okay, that sucks. That really sucks, actually.
You actually couldn't get your trailer on? Is that what you're saying?
We could buy like that
Oh,
much.
Yeah.
And that's how everything has gone.
Perfectly hooked
Just
up.
Yep.
Game of inches. But yeah, that was the biggest, I think that was the biggest setback. I mean, and we had especially you had to deal with doctors who were doing the best. We're not anti-medical people, but they believe this is the way and this is the way.
Yeah.
And you're
Yeah.
not doing this way. And in my opinion, you're impeding this kid from being able to walk. And I'm going to talk to you about that.
Yeah.
So let's without names, without anything, let's go there for a second, because when you are doing something that without a shadow of a doubt between the two of you and your family, it is what you're going to do and it is right for you. And I'm willing to do the work, and it's going to be hard. And then you have these pings from all around you, all these external influences that come at you. And they're like, excuse me, what do you think you're doing? A lot of times, and again, in teaching boundaries, and we know this, when we are doing things different according to God's word and according to what we know is right for our family, how do you go, a big old heck no. Like, we're still charging forward. We're united. Like, how did you guys work through some of that? Because I'm sure you're still getting it, like, how do you work through it from all angles?
Well, I think it's as a mother, knowing your mother's intuition. And that's the Holy Spirit.
Yep.
Like a mother's intuition is just listening to Holy Spirit and following that, even though it feels maybe not the quote unquote right thing to do at the time, but it feels right. You're like, this is what we need to do. And just staying in that. You can hear all of those negative things coming at you, or you can just turn it off. Well, this person doesn't agree, and we're going through this right now, so maybe we distance ourselves a little bit from them.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yep.
We can love them at a distance and not have to have that negative impact while we're trying to make big decisions or while we're trying to do the work truly of like, okay, we got to figure this out.
That's really deep right there. I mean, we did a whole episode on healthy boundaries.
Yeah.
In that, did you have to go through some really hard separations? What was the outcome of that? Did you circle back around and say sorry? How'd that turn out?
I think we were really intentional about talking to people who, like, there's been several times too where like, hey, listen, dude, I'm going through this. I'm doing it. I'm not asking you your opinion about it. I'm just sharing this with you. And I don't necessarily maybe confront that. I just go, okay, great. Okay, I'll see you in a couple months or whatever the case may be. But I think it was too just deciding who we were going to work with. Like, there were some doctors that were bad. Like, they were shaming, manipulative, this and that. Okay. Like Earl Witt, great counselor I work with in town. He's my guy. And he would go, okay. Like, not it's okay.
Okay.
It's not okay what you're doing, but okay. That's your deal. Adios. Great. Thank you for your time. Send me the $800 bill for this 20-minute session and see you later, because that's what it would be.
I'm sure it's not that. Earl, I'm sure it's
Earl.
tons of value.
Oh, no, not Earl, $800. No, like Earl told me that, and the doctors.
I see.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
Doctor,
Okay.
great. Okay, doctor.
Earl's off the hook then.
No, Earl's,
Yes.
Earl's the guy. Not $800. He's worth every penny. But I'd say to the doctor, okay,
Okay.
I'll pay that bill.
Yeah.
I'm going to pray gripe about it, but I'll do it, and then we'll just move on.
It's so true what you say. Doctors are confident in themselves. That comes all the way through medical school. I learned recently that your body can heal cavities. You can take supplements and your body can heal a cavity. You don't need to go in there, drill, affect a nerve, which could affect something else in your body.
Yep.
You can heal it. And you talk to a dentist and they go, you what? You can do that? And they didn't even know that. So it's incumbent on us to do all that research. So that's
That's
how about
right.
it?
And we didn't burn bridges. Like with that doctor, here's this doctor. Great. Okay, cool. Because we might need to come back here, but you just share that. Okay, great. We're going to go to the next place. So it's doctors, it's relationships, it's stuff that doesn't work.
And I would say this too, as we were going through the journey, I was so focused on Bennett and working on him that we didn't have time to be like, look at what we're doing. Like we shared things like as an update and okay, this is happening. Because a lot of people were truly, genuinely asking, like, how can we pray for you?
Yeah.
How, like, what are those things? But we weren't like vlogging about it. Like we were so in it that we didn't have time to just like be all eyes on us while we're making big decisions. So it helped with all the noise of the negativity to be not as loud in our ears. But then when they were there, it was like, okay, like we can process this together. We can talk about it. And then we can like say like, well, this is why we're doing it. This is our why. Knowing our why and knowing where the journey that God's taking us is bigger than someone saying something negative to us and opposing us.
Yeah. Sometimes less information output. Because then when you do that, people automatically feel like they get to have a say. Right. And so sometimes just getting through it without blasting to the mountaintops about everything that's going on, it is a lot easier, like you said. We're just going to do this.
And now that we're on the other side of it, now it's like I want to scream from the mountaintop because I remember those moments of doubt and moments that were really hard that I'm like, I want to support those families and those moms. And it's really been cool to see even local people and not local people, like a mom from Hawaii reach out and be like, what are you doing? Can you teach me? Can you help me? And it's like, who am I? Like, Lord, who am I? Why? And this is the why we walked through this journey and now I get to help whoever is the next person that reaches out.
Can I ask, how was it on Bennett? And what did you do to help him through this?
He is such a sweetheart. He's so tolerable of all the therapy. I think just because he was an infant and being touched and worked on and the positive things that we surrounded even him as an infant with, whether it was the music, like healing frequency music, not getting into woo-woos, like true, like research-based things like that.
The woo-woos.
Yeah.
It's 560, not 561 hertz.
Right.
Like that. But I want to hear more about that, the healing frequencies too.
But truly like doing those things even as an infant, because they're still receiving. We had a lot of prayer over him, praying over him. Like, I think every day, like you talk about like, Lord, we're still waiting for the healing. We're still there, and being disciplined, even just in your prayer life of like, we are asking for you to heal him. We don't know what that looks like, but we're still asking and still trusting that he's going to do that, even though we're waiting. And a few years feels like forever sometimes. And that's really just a little part of it. But being able to surround him with like things like that. And so he's so used to getting hands laid on him. He's so used to in prayer wise and physically like healing.
He doesn't know any different.
He doesn't.
He's literally been touched like that since he was born.
And when what gave me confidence, like we're going to figure this thing out, is because you'd be there, his brothers would be there, we'd all be there. I'm like, we're going to figure this out because we're doing it together. But also like when we would be going in, when you were doing the stuff in Davenport that was hurting him that we didn't realize it. Yeah. We'd be driving there and he would be like locked in. Like we'd be listening to good music and stuff. He would be like, I am locked in. I know what's about to happen. I'm locked in.
Yeah. You could see it in his face.
Oh yeah.
Like you could see like, okay, I'm ready. And I don't know if that's just a drive that comes from him or he loved even like the dog. Like we had to bring the dog. She's a service dog now of ours that helps me with my patients. So she's in with my people as well.
The 80-pound dog?
Yes. And she would be waiting in the van and just building that confidence in him of, even though it was hurting his feet at that time and it wasn't 100% cracked, he's still, and then just like being able to have tools. if he's going to be sore, if he's going to be like, let's give him things that he likes and let's do something memorable since he's got his boots on now. We call them his boots when he was getting casted. You know, are we going to make a fun movie night? Are we going to like do something every time he's doing that to be like, there is a positive about this and making it fun of, you know, like we said, we call them his boots and we just did little fun things here and there. He did so amazing. Like he's such a, and everyone would say that he's so sweet.
It sounds like you, I mean, his personality was great for this.
Yeah.
We have a little one who, when she skins something, at least past tense, it was like the end of the world, you know?
No, don't. You don't fall down. The rest of you, it's fine. You please slow
Everyone
down.
else can fall down. You can't fall down because it's going to be a thing.
The whole rest of the day is going to be shot.
And that's hard. That's really hard on a parent, you know, and especially when you got to do something that you know is good for the child. Like she doesn't want Neosporin. I know it's important. For some reason, she doesn't want anything touching that wound, you know? So we go through these things. What is your advice to a parent who has a child who just is resistive and fights what you know to be good for the child?
I would say find the little wins that you can. And remember as a parent, they're usually mirroring our reaction too. So like if you think of a little baby when they fall down and they're like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And they look at you like, oh, was that bad?
Yep.
And then they start crying opposed to, oh, you're okay. Hop on up. Like, and especially with boys, I've had to really learn this because everyone's falling or busting a head open or breaking a collarbone. Oh my word. And they truly do mirror us of like, you know, we have to set the tone. Just like in our spiritual walk, we have to set the tone for our children. They're constantly watching us. But just making little wins for them of like, you know what, you did skin your knee and maybe they like a treat, or maybe they not always having to do food, but like, you know what, let's watch something for 5 minutes.
Yeah. You would try so many different things with Bennett. Like it wasn't just like it worked. You would try this and this and this and this and this. So I think you find it according to that child's personality.
Absolutely.
What are they going to like jive with this? Because we tried so many different things. And that's how like ultimately Bennett came around, because you had all these different disciplines, you pulled them together, and now you got doctors calling you about their patients because they've seen what happened with Bennett.
Yeah.
But it was leave no stone unturned mentality the whole time, and expectations of not everybody's going to want to approach this the same way as us.
That's
cool.
all right.
And having that expectation, it wasn't shocking. Not everything's going to work. Yeah. Okay. And we just keep going.
Did. So let's go there. So Bennett, the video of him running, there's videos and it's just, I mean, you look back on day one when he was born to today and it's that moment of like, we did it. God, praise your name.
Yeah, absolutely.
We put in the work, you provided, and we're here today. And little Mr. Bennett is running.
He is. He's fast too.
Yeah.
It is something else to watch your child go through that and then see them on the other side thriving. Like there's just nothing like it. And to be able to look back now, and I'm so glad we took the pictures we took, even though it was a hard time, or we made the memories in the hard. We get to still look back and be like, that was so fun. Like we still made it the best we could. And now to see him thriving and running and just doing his thing is just it. And even having like our newest addition, he's 1 and he just started walking a few weeks ago. And it's like to see how quickly and easily it was for him. It's like, I don't want to take those things for granted because it took us a lot more and a lot more effort for that. And it's just really cool to see him thriving now.
Yeah.
And now that's the testimony.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, Brooke was like, well, I'm going to go meet with these people. They want to know kind of what we did. What should I tell them? Like, just bring Bennett. There he is. And I think we need to, you know, for us, it's fortunate because we can see that and it's the reminder, but we've got to create reminders of ourselves of like, okay, there's the result that happened before. And keep that in the front of my mind of like, we got through that. We can kind of get through anything.
Yeah.
And great. Thank God that he gave us literally our daily bread But then it's like, now you just share the testimony. And then the testimony does the work.
Your testimony is beautiful. It's so
Thank
fun
you.
to watch. And the outcome, like you said, you're like, why? Like, what, Lord? Like, what?
Yep.
But again, Jeremy, like you said in the very beginning, it's you just look at, and we can't see what the future holds, but Lord knows that this is exactly where you were supposed to be. And through this whole journey, you now he's going to use you as the vessel, both of you, but through your training and everything to help all these incredible families that didn't even know that something existed. Now it exists and there is hope. Like your testimony with Bennett and all of the sacrifice that you guys did to get to where you are today is like anyone on the other side of this is going, oh my goodness, there's something else that have been and lost some hope on something. Like there's hope.
Yes.
This is possible.
Well, I'd say you guys are the same exact way. Like,
Absolutely.
you're a living, walking testimony.
Come on. Let's go.
I
Let's
mean-
go.
And
It's
it has
amazing.
been hard.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't change it for the world.
Well,
It's
now
been
you're
hard.
50 episodes deep. You got another 50 teed up. And who would have thought you guys would be doing this
Yeah.
5 years
I
ago?
can't get enough of it. I
who'da
just love
thought?
people's testimonies and stories. It's beautiful what people
really
are
is.
capable of. We should never discredit
That's right.
ever
Yep.
what we are capable of. The human body, that's some more stuff like what you guys are talking about. Like God has created our body to heal. It heals itself. Like
Amen.
if we gotta give that more credit where credit's due when it comes to the Lord.
Yes.
Oh, thank you, Jeremy and Brooke, for sharing all of this.
you.
Was there any last minute things you want to just
Do you have a website?
I do. Apricityspace.com.
say it again?
Apricityspace.com.
Okay.
Okay, we'll put that in the show notes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Because I would ask you to spell it, but we'll get it in the.
Apricity is an old time word. It
Okay.
hasn't been used for a while, and it means the warmth in the winter when you feel the sunlight hitting you. And that's what I want to create for people is in darker times, cold times that are just maybe not the funnest.
Yeah.
You find the light, find the warmth, and I hope to be that for people.
You
That's
are.
great. That's wonderful.
You're a
Thank you.
walking ray of sunshine.
I think like the wrapping up final word, like so many people I feel like are like I was too, a little bit stale, a little bit lukewarm of like, okay, Lord, thank you. But like, man, I'm just not hearing from you or this and that, or I want to level my life up or my business up or whatever. The key to all that is your problems. You got a problem and you may be running from it, or it may be just be like too big to deal with, or you may be settled like this is the way it's always going to be. That's the whole key is if you can take that on and you square up with it and you work your way through it, whether it takes a day, a week, or a year, that's the whole key. That'll unlock that whole thing you think is over here that you want to go get. That's problems are the way to do that.
Go through it.
Yep.
Great word, Jeremy.
stuff.
Great word. All right. Thank you both so much. We love you.
Thanks for having
back
us.
at you.
Thanks so much, guys. Thank you so much for listening. We want to change lives through this podcast. And if you want to support this podcast or our guests, please see the links below for our Patreon and giving links.
And like and subscribe and also share our podcast as much as possible. Thank you.